Today, I'm going to talk through how all the apps on our phone are trying to manipulate our behavior and how you can use those same tools to better yourself. We're going to talk through simple user interface design principles that get you to say yes to things, that get you to say no to things. And then we're going to see how that can actually map onto our own lives so that ultimately we can take control of our own minds. So first, we're going to imagine things from social media's perspective. So if you were the CEO of a social media company like Instagram, you want people to be on your site as much as possible. If you have a subscription offering like YouTube Premium, you're trying to make sure people subscribe and they don't unsubscribe. But once they have this mission in mind, the bottom line becomes, how can we make people do more of the thing we want and do less of the thing that we don't want? And I think there's three serious examples of this. The first one has to do with subscriptions. It's incredibly easy to subscribe to things, usually with one tap. And this has to do with the company simply wants you to do that. So they make it easy, right? Now let's think on the flip side. Have you ever accidentally canceled a subscription before? I would say probably not. And I say that because you probably know an experience like this. You have to go into the settings. Then you need to find this random page that they have. You need to go through 5 statements of, are you sure? You need to call an account representative. They need to give you a retention offer. You need to say, no, yes, I'm sure, please cancel me. I am done with this interaction. They don't want you to cancel. So they make the user interface for it extremely hard. If they want something that you do to be a habit, they will gamify it. They will make it a leaderboard. They will make confetti drop. They will give you titles. They will give you trophies. Think about companies like Duolingo. Duolingo actually started as a translation service. The founder wanted to translate all of these texts that had never been translated before. And rather than pay people to translate these books, he instead created a system where you chunk up little tiny pieces of each book and give them to people. And because Duolingo is a game, people will translate things for free. Another example of this is Google Maps reviews. When you review a restaurant, you'll get this notification like, congrats, you're an explorer. Look at you, you're an explorer. Look at what you've won. They make it fun. They make it a status game that you can climb. If they know you'll be distrusting, to make something more trustworthy, they will show your friends doing. Instagram now has a reshare button on Reels. Beneath a reel, it'll now show a little icon. Hey, look, this friend of yours also thought this was cool. And it's even down to likes now too. So this gives it some sort of social proof like, hey, look, see, other people are doing this too. I think the classic example of this is Venmo. People were really uncomfortable with sending their payments to people online. And so what makes people more comfortable? Seeing a social media feed of all of the transactions that people are doing. Look, there's proof that people are doing it. You're good. Ultimately, these companies make the things they want you to do easy. They make the things they don't want you to do hard. They make the things they want you to be a habit, they make them addictive. And they make the things they know you will be dubious of, they show your friends doing it. Once you get really good at reading these different user interface designs, you can start to work backwards of, this is probably what the creator of this feature wanted me to do. They're being judged on this metric. They are not being judged on this. It's actually kind of a language that you can learn to read and understand how your behavior is supposed to be manipulated. And it's important to not completely demonize the practice of making things easy and making other things hard. The needs of the users change over time. If you think about how we used social media 20 years ago, if Facebook were still a text-only website where you just read things and there were no images, would we use it today? Probably not. I mean, things change, right? People change. The way we communicate changes. But how much of the way communication changes has to do with social media companies creating that reality versus it being a grassroots effort that people want to. And I think a good example of this sort of manipulation is the Instagram nav bar at the bottom. This is the navigation at the bottom. There's a strip of 5 icons, and for the longest time, on the left was your home feed, then it was the explore page, then it was the camera to take a picture, then it was your activity, and then finally it was your profile. And this was how it was for the longest time. And this was great when everything was happening in the feed, when Instagram was dominant. These singular photos were what people were sharing. But towards the end of the 2010s, we all know what happened, right? TikTok came around, short form video. And suddenly TikTok was eating Instagram's lunch. Instagram was concerned about becoming irrelevant. But they had already trained their users to come for images. How could they train them to come for videos? Well, they simply replaced the middle button with the camera. They put the Reels icon there. This puts the thing that they want you to do front and center. And not only that, but they're overriding the existing habit you have. I want to post a picture. Let me click the middle. And then you're like, oh shit, wait, no, this is Instagram Reels. Wait, what is this? And then you start scrolling, right? So they already had built up a habit for you. They sub it out, and now they've kind of hijacked that behavior from you, right? Later on, right, because of COVID, they decided to put the TikTok or whatever their equivalent of TikTok shop, they put Instagram shop at the bottom. Imagine what Instagram was like 15 years ago. They would have never had a shopping feature, but now it's one of the 5 most important functions of Instagram. Now they changed the icons so that there is home, there is Reels, DMs, search, and then your profile. Home, Reels, DMs. These are the things that they want you to do the most. So they put them bottom and to the left. It's easy for you to swipe between them, and ultimately you're going to develop habits around it. This is not necessarily a good or bad thing. I think it's just often misaligned with your own ideas of how you want to build your life, right? Would you want Mark Zuckerberg deciding what's best for you? There may be very small things that that you and him are aligned on. You both want to communicate with your friends, stay up to date on the news, right? But how you do that and how he wants you to do that kind of start to diverge. The point that I'm making is that making good things easy and making bad things hard is exactly what these social media companies do to manipulate your behavior. This brings me to my next point here. Your life is a user interface, but your interface is not the nav bar on your home screen. It's not pixels. Your life has to do with your home layout. It has to do with your friendships, your relationships, where you live, what you do with your time, your hobbies, your beliefs, your identities. In the same way that Instagram is molding your behavior, the structure of your life is molding your behavior too. And so this brings up these questions here. You already do this to yourself. Look at your home screen, right? What is on your home screen? What is quick access? What do you leave on your nightstand, right? What are the hobbies that you keep coming back to over and over again? These are all things in your life that you've made easy to do. In contrast, right? Look at your app drawer, not your home screen, but all of those apps that are buried on your phone, right? Instead of looking at your nightstand, look at your attic, right? Instead of the hobbies, the things that you willingly engage with, look at your fears and your insecurities, right? These are things that you've made hard to do. Once you see that like life is a user interface and there are shortcuts that make things easy and there are blockers that make things hard to do, you can then take stock for yourself. Are the things that are easy for me to do, actually what I want to be doing more of? Are the things that I've made hard for myself actually things that I want to be hard, that I want to do less of? And I'll give you a good example of this from my own life. So I don't bring snacks into my home. I don't buy potato chips. I don't buy cases of soda, junk food like that. I don't bring it into my home. That doesn't mean that I don't eat it. I actually love Dr. Pepper. I love Ruffles potato chips. And I will buy a bag at CVS when I'm out and about, but I will not buy a family style bag, bring it to my home to have it sitting here, right? Because that makes something easier for me to do. It's like I've buried it under a bunch of settings. It's not impossible, right? But certainly harder. By contrast, I buy a ton of books that most of them I don't end up reading. But the fact that they are in my home as opposed to in a bookstore or at the library, that is something that I've made easier for myself to do. So your user interface is right in front of you. And you can pretend that you are Mark Zuckerberg trying to manipulate yourself for your own ends. Except they're actually your own ends. And you can actually rearrange your room. You can change what types of things you bring into your home, what things you buy, what hobbies you do. Let's rearrange your user interface for your mission. What are the things that you want to be easy? Bring them closer to you, right? Put them in your nav bar, just like Instagram does, right? What do you want to have more friction? Move it away. And you bury it in the settings, right? Just like the cancel subscription. Things don't need to be impossible for you to do, right? I think it's good to be realistic in the same way that I'm realistic with myself that I like Dr. Pepper. I'm not going to shame myself for drinking Dr. Pepper. I will just simply make it structurally harder for me to drink it. A good example of this would be having Dr. Pepper at CVS versus buying a 12-pack and putting it in my fridge versus having a little mini fridge next to my bed versus having an IV drip straight into my veins of Dr. Pepper 24/7. There's layers of proximity and you can choose how far on that spectrum you want to go. What are things that you want to do long term? Gamify it, right? Think about how Duolingo works. How can you take your goal and give yourself little nice rewards? Make it fun, right? Doing what you know needs to be done doesn't have to be like eating your vegetables. You have control over the interface, the way in which you get it done. And finally, what do I want to be cool? You can psyop yourself. You can pretend that it's cool. You can imagine your friends doing it, right? You can bring your friends in to do it, right? Ad campaign, target you. The same tools that advertisers use to get you to buy their product, to make you envy it, think it's cool. You can do that. Bring your friends in. Have some social pressure to do something. Once you see life as a user interface with these levers to pull back and forth, things to make easier, make the things you actually want to do easier, you're golden. Once you have clarity on your vision of what you want to be, you can make decisions on, does this design of my interface fit the life I want? Does it not, right? And that might mean discarding certain items. It might mean just changing the location of them. Instead of charging your phone right on your nightstand, you might choose to charge it right at your front door because that's the place that you need it most when you leave the house. If you keep getting interrupted with phone calls by people, you might put on Do Not Disturb during the day, right? I think the next step is like looking at your own space, your own life as something that you've created and that you can create for yourself to mold yourself into the future, right? Social media companies, they already mold behavior to create the future that they want. You can do the same for yourself. So good luck to you and good luck to all of us in crafting our own futures.